You have survived the spookiest day of the year, Halloween, made it through the weekend, and let's get your Monday started. Good morning. Kelly Nash with the National Briefing. Busy news week. I mean, the weekend was action-packed with all kinds of idiots, from Gavin Newsom making an absolute buffoon of himself with Kristen Welker. We'll probably get into that a little bit later on in the broadcast. But first, we start with a not very encouraging message to you, to myself, to all Trump supporters. This is coming from the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, who had this to say to us.
Donald Trump and his cronies can all the way off.
Wow. All right. Now, I thought when I heard that possibly this was like some sort of AI video that J.B. Pritzker was being victimized by. But no, he did in fact say, and as a matter of fact, that's the headline at the Chicago Sun-Times. Governor J.B. Pritzker tells President Donald Trump and his Republican allies, which of you and I, for the most part, I'm assuming most of you are Republicans or people who support the president, that we can F all the way off. I'm sure there's some liberals here who loved that. But anyway, he was making that speech to the Illinois Federation of Teachers, and apparently teachers love that kind of language as well. At least in Illinois, they do. And why is he telling us this? I'm going to try to put myself in the mind of J.B. Pritzker. J.B. Pritzker does not like you and I and Donald Trump and all of the Republicans because specifically what's going on with ICE. In his opinion, I guess he would say it's because Donald Trump hates brown people and his supporters encourage this. And we're trying to deport all brown people, which is patently false. I don't know how much harder this is to understand. We dislike illegals being in our country specifically because they use our resources. This government shutdown is a fantastic example of it because the Democrats have decided to make this about health care. What the Republicans are saying is you have millions of illegals illegally using the health care benefits of Americans. So we're going to negotiate with you eventually on this, but part of that is going to include kicking them off, which they do not want. That's why they want the $1.5 trillion. What we're seeing during this government closure is the SNAP benefits are being used a lot by illegal aliens, and we don't like that. We believe that in being an American citizen, there is a birthright. That as a birthright, it's something special. The reason you have something special as an American that they don't have in Honduras or wherever is because the ancestors who built this country. Now, look, how about this for you African Americans? And some of you on the left have been trying to make the claim that this country was built pretty much exclusively by slaves. That is not true. But did slavery help build the country? Of course it did. Did, Irish immigrants help build this country? Of course they did. Were they abused in the process? The Italians and the Mexicans and insert whoever your people group is, the Koreans, the Asian, whatever. They've all contributed. And because of their contributions, you have a better country. Well, we did have a better country than any other place on earth. But now we're trying to make it great again, restore what they have built for us, and kick out the people who have not contributed and currently are not contributing. They are here to just collect free stuff. Now, USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins was on Fox News over the weekend, and she made this.
We asked every state for the first time in history, and this was in February, to send us their data and let us, with DOGE and a war room, actually start going through this data to better understand how this explosion of SNAP benefits happened under Joe Biden. We increased almost 40% on this program in just a couple of years under the Biden administration. And since we have asked for that data, 29 states have complied.
Wait a minute. The federal government reaches out to the states and says, we want a report, and 29 states complied. What I just heard is 21 states refused to give their data to the federal government Now, I don't want to have to go here, but in my mind, what I'm hearing is 21 states do not want the federal government to know what they're doing with this money. That is concerning. I'm going to guess that of the 21 states, pretty much exclusively blue states, pretty much run by Democrats. I can imagine California's in there. I can imagine New York is in there. I can imagine Mr. F all the way off, J.B. Pritzker is in there. We're not complying. We're not going to tell you what we're doing with your federal tax dollars. All right, well, what did we learn from the 29 states? Again, pretty much exclusively Republican-led states that have probably done a much better job of cracking down on the illegals compared to the other 21. What did we learn from those 29 states?
We studied about $100 billion in spend. We have found thousands of illegal use of the EBT card. We have been moving people off of SNAP. We've got almost 700,000 people, I think, we've moved off just since the president took office. We've arrested about 118 people. We found one guy in 6 different states getting a benefit. We found about 5,000 people that are dead who are still getting benefits.
5,000 people that are dead, we were paying for their monthly food bill. Now, it doesn't take a genius to recognize they're not eating much. So where is that money going? Could it be to criminal organizations? Could it just be to straight up criminals? Meaning my mother passed, my father passed, and I just figured out a way to keep those checks rolling because the federal government is bloated. Yes, that's clearly what's happening. So somebody's eating for free who should not be eating for free. A lot of she mentioned 700,000 people were kicked off. That's a big number. That's a big number. Now, it's nowhere near as big as what some conservatives are putting out there, which is very frustrating because you're going to lose credibility if you don't just let the story develop on its own. Now, I don't know this woman, Lydia Karana, I think is how you say her name. She's on Newsmax apparently. She gave an op-ed piece, I'm guessing, over the weekend. This thing went viral because it popped up in my timeline several times, and she's got the righteous indignation flowing.
The government spends approximately $8.3 billion on SNAP every single month. So if illegals were removed from the payroll, do the math, it would be reduced by the cost of 70%.
Wait a minute. What math are we talking about? Lydia, if you want to use a math equation, you need to give us the numbers that you're working off of. She never provides that. And you can go find that op-ed piece anywhere. Yes, if there were 70% of the people receiving the money were illegal aliens, this would be, I think, marching in the streets time. But, it's not. It's, as far as we know, it's not, okay? Elon Musk hasn't said that. Elon Musk said it's an unbelievable amount of fraud. Fraud, yes, fraud. So that's a lot of American citizens that are doing it, but it's also a lot of illegals are getting it. Brooke Rollins has not said that she's found 70% of the recipients. She said that the program increased by 40% during the Biden, or almost 40% during the Biden administration. That is an unbelievable explosion of people who needed SNAP benefits. Why? I'm sure some of that could have been attributed to COVID and they weren't able to get their jobs back. I understand when I hear the Democrats saying it's the working poor. Okay, I'll give you that, but it's not 40%. There's no way that it goes up 40% in a 4-year period. Legally, it doesn't do that. So there are illegals on the system. We don't know to what extent, but for everyone we kick off, that's another American that we can help. And we want to help the Americans. So let's not get ourselves bogged down in crazy, facts that aren't facts. 70% of the people receiving the food benefits are not Americans, or that discredits the story. That discredits your argument. We want to argue with their numbers. So when they provide the numbers, here's a stat that the Democrats are using. For every dollar spent on SNAP benefits, it creates another $1.59 in economic activity. Nancy Pelosi's been using this argument for decades. Where is that math? Please show us how that math works, because we are spending trillions of dollars, which means we should be way out of debt by now. Way out of debt. This is insanity. For every dollar the federal government puts into the economy, we get $1.59 back. Okay, if you're going to stick with that, then this country will be completely poverty-ridden any day now. But no, when they give us figures, show them the logic or lack of logic behind their argument, and we're going to be in a lot better place because we are on the right side of the argument. Their argument is nonsensical. Let them continue making their nonsensical arguments to the American people. And when you come across as reasoned and measured and pointing out certain facts of their arguments, we're going to win this argument, and we're going to have now I'm hoping for a big midterm, but more importantly, we're going to hang on in 3 years and start really making America great again.